Before we begin, please imagine the bell notification is on and you're subscribed to Huna Stories. I learned early what it felt like to be optional. Not unwanted, exactly, no one ever said that, but optional in the way people decide things without you, and then act surprised when you notice. The first wedding I missed was a cousin's. I found out 2 weeks later when photos showed up in the family group chat. Someone joked about the food, someone else tagged people I didn't recognize, no one tagged me. When I asked my mother about it, she hesitated, then said, "It was small, you know how these things are." I didn't, actually, but I nodded anyway. After that, it became easier for them. Another wedding, another explanation that arrived late and incomplete. It would have been awkward, there were space issues. We assumed you'd be busy. Each reason sounded reasonable on its own. Together, they formed a pattern I wasn't supposed to name. I stopped asking questions. That was the first adjustment. The second was learning how to listen differently, to pauses, to what wasn't said. When relatives talked about upcoming events, their voices lowered slightly around me, as if the future had sharp edges I shouldn't touch. I told myself it didn't matter. Weddings are just parties, I said. People get married every day. But exclusion has a way of accumulating. It's never loud, it just sits somewhere behind your ribs, making everything feel provisional. Years passed like that. I built a life that mostly worked, friends who showed up, work that paid the bills, even holidays that felt lighter when they weren't crowded with expectation. Still, there was a part of me that kept checking the door, wondering if belonging was something I'd missed a class on. When I met the person who would eventually become my spouse, it didn't feel like a rescue, it felt calm. We were both past the age of dramatic declarations. What we shared was steadier than that. We paid attention to each other. We didn't disappear when things got inconvenient. When we decided to get married, we did it quietly. No announcement tour, no family summit, just a decision made between two people who were already living like a team. The guest list came later, and it surprised me how emotional that process was. My partner framed it practically at first: numbers, budget, space. But for me, it felt like inventory, not of relationships, but of safety. Who feels like relief when they walk into a room? Who requires explanation before kindness? Who has already shown me where I stand? My family's names didn't land anywhere obvious. They hovered, unfinished. I kept expecting guilt to arrive in a dramatic wave. It didn't. What I felt instead was fatigue, the specific exhaustion of imagining myself bracing on a day that was supposed to be about standing still. So I didn't invite them. I didn't announce that choice. I didn't frame it as a statement. I just didn't send the invitations. No message explaining my reasoning, no preemptive defense. The absence was quiet, which felt appropriate. For a while, nothing happened. Then, a few weeks before the wedding, my phone started lighting up in unfamiliar ways. Missed calls from an aunt I rarely spoke to, a vague text from my brother. Heard something weird, call me. I didn't. The story reached me anyway, filtered through mutual contacts. Confusion turned into offense reframed as concern. How could I do this? What would people think? Someone apparently suggested they should just show up, sort it out in person. That was the moment something solid shifted. Not in me, around me. The venue coordinator, someone I'd met twice, whose job it was to manage chaos with a clipboard and a calm voice, called to confirm final details. Guest list access contingencies. Are there any individuals we should be aware of, she asked, who may attempt to attend without an invitation? The question was neutral, professional. It gave me an option I hadn't known I was allowed to take. I named them, not emotionally, just factually. She nodded, made a note, and said, "Understood. We'll handle it." No confrontation followed, no dramatic showdown, just procedure. On the day of the wedding, I didn't look over my shoulder. I walked into the space and felt, maybe for the first time at a family-adjacent event, unwatched, no one assessing whether I belonged, no one preparing to explain me. Later, I learned that a few relatives did try to intervene. They weren't escorted out or embarrassed. They were simply informed politely and firmly that the event was private. The boundary held because it wasn't mine alone anymore. It was institutional, impersonal, final. The ceremony itself was small, honest, the kind of gathering where silence doesn't feel like tension, just breathing room. I noticed the absence once, briefly, the way you notice an old ache that doesn't flare anymore. Then it passed. Afterward, there were messages, some angry, some wounded, a few that tried to rewrite history. We never said you weren't welcome, you misunderstood. This could have been handled differently. Maybe it could have, but not by me. I didn't respond right away. I didn't feel the need to correct them. For once, their version of events didn't require my participation to survive. What changed wasn't the relationship itself. It's still unresolved, still uneven. What changed was the power of their expectations. They no longer defined milestones I had to earn my way into. They no longer controlled access to joy as a form of approval. I didn't feel triumphant, I felt settled. Belonging, I learned, isn't proven by who shows up when you invite them. Sometimes it's proven by who no longer has the authority to demand a seat. And on that day, standing beside someone who chose me without conditions, I finally understood something I wish I'd known earlier. Exclusion only works if you keep waiting at the door.